Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss American Trading Corporation, and thank you for tuning into our podcast, The Secret War on Cash. We're going to take a little bit of a hard look into what's been happening with gold, the dollar, and that tail that continues to turn. I have with me my co-host, Chris Agelastos. Good morning, Chris. How are you today?
What are you doing?
There he is. Top of the morning to you, sunshine. Very nice
Yeah,
to
good to
see
see
you.
you.
Let's talk about gold and the dollar today. What do you say?
Yeah, it sounds like a deal.
All right, let's see here, our headline, gold challenges US dollar. These five countries control over half of the global reserves. So it is interesting. We've been talking about this for a while, how many countries out there, central banks, et cetera, they have been unloading dollars and replacing it with gold. I looked at this as I was looking at these stats or these figures here of the five countries who control over half the reserves, United States being number one with
Hmm.
a little over 8 metric tons. Then you've got next Germany at three, you got Italy at two, you've got France at two, you've got, who's at our five? One, two, three. Yeah, those are
Russia, I think.
Russia, excuse me, Russia
Yeah.
with 2.4 and then 2.3 respectively. Here's the thing though. Um, if we go back to this isn't just referring to central banks holding of gold. This is like countries holding of gold
Hmm.
and gold reserves, et cetera. But like factored into this, I would, we if you remember a few months back when we were talking about Chris, how it came out and with Trump and with Elon Musk, how they wanted to
Hmm.
do an audit on Fort Knox,
Yeah.
and that has not happened. And so, like, when I looked at these numbers, clearly, obviously, somebody out there owns the gold, but it's like you wonder how closely are these numbers audited? Like,
Right.
who really knows for sure? Because if in that 8 metric tons that the United States has, if part of that is Fort Knox, which isn't audited, that it's like going to the bank and say, "Give me a loan. Give me a loan, please. I've got $10 million in assets that are in the lurch. I'm good for it. Don't worry about it." And then just saying, "Oh, okay, that's fine."
Yeah. Trust
So
me.
trust me, I'm worth it. So anyway, I mean, you've got clearly, I think that the story here, more importantly than who has what gold, is the fact that there has been this mass exodus out of dollars and into gold. So I don't expect that these, if anything, these numbers are going to probably grow. I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, they're the central banks have all been buying. They're turning to gold to um, give themselves some more stability, so they're not as reliant on the U.S. dollar. And that's pretty much worldwide. Countries are trying to escape relying on the dollar, and using other payment systems, using their own currencies, um, and of course, just to try and protect themselves from inflation concerns and currency debasement. I mean, we're seeing that the value of all nations' currencies have been declining as governments print and spend and don't manage things the way that they should. So it's not surprising that those numbers will continue to increase, but it does make you wonder, with the U.S. kind of, leading the charge as far as gold holdings, and then, like you said, not really opening the doors for people to see. It does make you wonder if it's really there, like, and not to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist and that it's all gone. Who knows, because they don't really tell us, but let's say if it was only half what we say it is, well, then that certainly changes the financial picture that the U.S. Lives under. How strong is our currency? And the dollar's already been suffering, as we've seen over the last several years. So if other nations were to find out, or really just the general public were to find out that our currency isn't backed by as much as we thought it was, it could have a big negative impact on our country and anybody holding the dollar.
For sure. Well, look, and I don't think questioning whether or not there's gold in Fort Knox makes you a conspiracy theorist. In fact, what I would say, just if in this, I'm not saying I'm right, but from my perspective, if it was truly there, they'd be
Hmm.
like, yeah, come on in, let's count it. That's
Right.
the only reason to not count it would be if it's not all there. And
Yeah.
not to mention, like, who knows, maybe there's a little extra there. Maybe somebody had an off day and they miscounted a decade ago or 5 decades ago or something to that effect. So,
Yeah.
well, you talked about the dollar, and we mentioned that in the beginning of the show. And by the way, for those of you tuning in, if you want some more information on gold and how to position yourself in gold, like all these governments are doing, all these central banks are doing, a lot of individual investors, I really encourage you, especially given the state of today's market, contact our office at 1-800-289-2646 and ask for some free information. There's no obligation. You can actually even text 1-800-289-2646 and they'll send you out information as well. And if you find it to be something that you think would be a good fit in your portfolio, they can certainly the representatives can certainly discuss with you how to do that better. You can also visit online at www.swissamerica.com. So moving to this next article here, Chris, de-dollarization, SCO nations shift 92% of trade away from US dollar.
Yeah.
92%. That's not a little bit. That's a lot of it. That's almost all of it. And these SCO nations, I mean, as you look at, what's taking place there, as it says kind of midway through the article, how SCO nations, BRICS, and currency substitution are driving de-dollarization trends. This is something that's unbelievable. That it's like what you would have thought even a year or two ago, like this would be just an idle threat or something that they were talking about doing and just in order to gain some kind of leverage.
Yeah.
This is no idle threat. I mean, this is a hard, fast reality of where things are in the world, and people are fleeing from the dollar at a pace that, to me, quite frankly, is unbelievable. And I don't know. I mean, this is something, Chris. I don't see a reversal of this happening because it just seems everything that comes out, they're piling more and more and more on this de-dollarization effort.
Yeah, well, and Putin, President Putin, has even emphasized here that Russia is committed to expanding non-dollar payment mechanisms. A fancy way to say, paying with anything other than the dollar. Member nations' currencies and whatnot. They're working on an electronic payment system. So we know all of that to be true. We also know that Saudi Arabia, who has always been very supportive of the U.S. dollar and the petrodollar, has now been taking yuan transactions from China for
Right.
oil. So even our friends in Saudi Arabia are taking other currencies than the U.S. dollar. So this is a trend that is not going to stop. And for people who said years ago that BRICS and the SCO and these other organizations are not going to have a major impact on the dollar, when 92% of their trade is not done in the dollar, that has an impact. Now, to what extent specifically do I know? No, I don't. But I can tell you if 92% of the transactions don't involve the dollar, then we are losing leverage in the international community that our currency has enjoyed for nearly 50 years. So it's not good
Right.
for us. Whether you want to believe it or not, you just got to look at the figures. And of course, three of the big countries, in the SEO are China, Russia, and India, which are also heading up BRICS. So there is going to be this continued push to move away from the dollar, and at some point, we're gonna feel the pain of that here.
Yeah, 100%. Well, good things hopefully to come. Hopefully we see some kind of a shift or some kind of a change. I don't know what'll cause it, but the secret war on cash continues. So for those of you tuning
Yeah.
in, thank you for doing so. If you're not subscribed, please do so as well. And we look forward to talking to you more in the future. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Chris, we'll see you real soon.
Yep. Take care.